Lauren Conlin is a journalist and podcaster. She's been covering the Luigi Mangione trial, and she joins me today. Lauren, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
Great to see you. So, for people maybe who haven't seen you before, why don't we start? Just give us a little background on you and tell us what's been going on in the trial.
I am a New Yorker and I actually work for Los Angeles Magazine, which is very funny. I mainly cover their East Coast stories. So my beat is very much crime, court, and pop culture, of course. And if you've got a celebrity that's been arrested, that is definitely my specialty. But the Luigi case, I mean, the two cases, I guess, I have been covering this from the start. It was crazy because my daughter is 10 and she brought up the other day when I actually forced her in 2024 to retrace the shooter and I'm saying the shooter because, of course, Luigi has not gone to trial yet. Innocent until proven guilty. I'm just remaining objective here. So I'll say
Sure.
we are retracing the shooter's footsteps. So I've got my daughter at 9 going to like the hostel, asking people questions. She's recording
Wow.
me and she's like, Mom, no one wants to talk to you. I'm like, I see that, but we're doing this. So I've been
Wow.
on it from the start.
That is amazing. And isn't it? I'm guilty of falling behind in the Luigi Mangione trial, but didn't the police commissioner herself make some skeptical comments about the original video footage that was released of the hooded shooter not looking exactly like Luigi Mangione? There are questions like that, aren't there?
I mean, there when the video footage first came out, it was pretty bizarre because the perp or the defendant Luigi seemed to look different in a lot of the videos. I think one of the screenshots or stills, I thought it was a girl, and I think it was one in the hostel. I can't recall, but no, there was actually a statement made by one of the police chiefs when it was very, very early on during a press conference, and basically they misquoted something that Luigi's mother had said, and Luigi's mom had said something. Or they had quoted Luigi's mom saying something like, "Oh, this is something I think that he would do," when she actually didn't say that at
Wow.
all. Yeah, and actually this came up in the suppression hearings in December. The defense was very, very much wanting to make this known. That statement never occurred. Luigi's mom had gone on record with them saying, "No, this is actually what I said." And I think the defense was just upset because that was never actually.
Whoop, Lauren?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Sorry,
Okay.
you're
Sorry.
back.
Sorry.
That was never corrected, I think, is what you were about to tell us.
Yes, yes.
So see, this is amazing because, we have these cases, whether it's Luigi Mangione shooting this healthcare CEO or Charlie Kirk or JFK, whatever it is, there's all of these contradictory, crazy circumstances. You've got a police chief or, this sort of misquote of the mother. You've got the commissioner from New York saying, wait a minute, why does he look different in the video? And then has Luigi spoken on his own behalf yet, or is that something that's going to happen as far as you know?
So all he's said in court was this, I think this was a few months ago. When the court was adjourned, he had said something along the lines of, it's the same trial twice. I got to get that exact quote because it was very shocking and surprising. A bunch of us, we're all on our computers looking down. We look up and we see someone talking, and it wasn't like he wasn't like screaming or shouting. He just kind of said it matter of factly, but you just don't expect a defendant to speak as he's being escorted out. So let me find exactly what he said. Uh,
And for people who maybe haven't been following the trial closely, he's a bit of an unusual defendant in that he was very well educated. He's from a very wealthy family. I find it a little bit even unusual that he would be staying in a youth hostel rather than a hotel. They're not that kind of common around New York City, and I think it might even be dangerous to stay in one of those things, particularly if you have the money. Didn't he have like $5,000 cash on him when he was hanging out at the McDonald's with all the evidence?
There was a lot of cash on him. There was some foreign currency as well, but I'll tell you, I went to that hostel. It wasn't bad.
Ah,
It definitely was not bad at all. But also, I'm fairly certain for places like that, it's acceptable to use cash. It's not, you're not looked at as like sketchy if you use cash, which is, I think, a big reason as to why someone would want to do this. But that quote, by the way, what he said leaving the courthouse or the courtroom, he said, quote, "It's the same trial twice. 1 + 1 is 2, double jeopardy by any common sense definition." And this is because he is facing concurrent prosecutions. He's facing the state prosecution. He's also facing a federal prosecution. And so the defense really wanted the federal trial to go first, but that's not happening. And this at this point, I think there's a lot of moving parts, but they were really pushing this before the death penalty counts were dismissed federally. So now that those are dismissed, I mean, I guess it's not quite as imperative the federal goes first, but I think it's definitely preferred.
uh-huh. And what is it that makes it federal? That he went to Pennsylvania and they arrested him there, or?
It's the interstate stalking. It's the traveling from state to state that makes it a federal case. I mean, it's funny. I've talked to multiple lawyers who are like, "Oh, this should just be a federal case." And then I've talked to lawyers that say, "No, this should just be a state case." I think it should just be a state case. I don't you know what I mean? I personally thought it was just like, yeah, this is a state case because he the whole I guess if you're not in the courtroom, it's tough to really understand certain things. Like back in September, Judge Caro dismissed the first-degree murder charge as it relates to an act of terrorism, and a lot of people could not understand. They were out of their minds, saying, "Oh my gosh, this was so clearly first-degree murder. It was planned. It was premeditated. How can this be dismissed?" And I get that. I totally get that. However, New York law, first degree murder is very the window there is very slim. They reserve that for politicians, police officers, civil servants, and the act of terrorism thing, that right on the line. It really could have gone either way. So technically, if I were to come up and just shoot you on the street, I would automatically get charged with second degree murder. That's pretty much the highest statute in New York, unless you're a police officer or the mayor, the governor, whatever. So that's why it is kind of interesting when you look at just certain elements of this case. You have to understand how the law works. And I say this as a lay. I am not a lawyer. I am just, I'm just a reporter.
Sure. Now, but I always thought that first degree murder, it's saying here, obviously this is just AI, neither of us are attorneys, but when it's premeditated versus you get into a fight with somebody at the gas station and shoot them, that's second degree. I guess they figure that's a crime of passion. But if you're sitting there and planning it and following the guy and knowing what time his medical conference begins and shooting him at the hotel, that's like particularly twisted. Why would they drop? Obviously, it's premeditated. He knew who the guy was.
It's New York laws. That's the reason. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very weird.
hmm
Very weird.
that's what I listen. I was in the same place where I was like, wait, what? This is crazy. I don't understand. And then I should have. I have it. Yeah, I have a book over there, a New York law book. I should have brought it over, but it explains it pretty thoroughly as to. I mean, listen, and also in New York, I mean, it's always like I think for second degree murder, it's 15 to life, pretty much. First degree is 25 to life. So I do feel like in New York, as a defendant, it is pretty crazy. You have a shot at living your life.
Yeah. Murder somebody and maybe just put yourself on ice for 15 years. But by the way, there's also a lot of people who get that reduced. I mean, that's just sort of like sentencing guidelines. Very, very weird how some of these things work. And I mean, obviously, what people think and what the law says, there's a lot of air in between those two things. So you were on Fox Nation talking to, who was this guy, a former prosecutor or?
Oh, that's Chris Swecker. Yeah, that was him. He's former FBI. I don't think I've ever met him before. It's so weird. I was filming an episode of Nancy Grace with him this morning, and I had not talked to him or really seen him since we did this. This was obviously back in 2024 when we really didn't know much, but yeah.
But this was a good interview because you touch on, first of all, Mr. Zwecker, I guess he's saying that there is a possibility that Luigi was working with somebody else. And I mean, former FBI agents are generally pretty straight-laced. A lot of people watch Crowdsource the Truth. They tell me that I'm a conspiracy theorist. But here's this guy saying maybe there was, in fact, a conspiracy, and there are elements of evidence that lead to that possible conclusion. This 3D printed gun, you even showed an image of that. I think a lot of people hear 3D printed gun and they think this guy is just like ordering a 3D printer from Amazon and printing it in his house. I don't think it's just any old 3D printer that can make those types of parts. This was a pretty sophisticated crime.
Very sophisticated. And there was not only a 3D printed gun, but there was also a silencer. And
Right.
I sat through 2 weeks of evidence that they wanted suppressed. And so we know a lot of the evidence that they have, but we don't know what the contents are on certain USB drives. Or, there was a cell phone in his backpack and a USB drive. Those will not be admitted. And the judge had ruled on this on Monday. So, I don't think that it's a big deal, really, that those are not admitted. I mean, I think that the defense, I have to say, the defense has done an incredible job in getting what they've gotten so far with certain pieces of evidence being dismissed, getting certain charges dropped. I don't think anybody thought that would happen. I think people saw this crime, they thought it was open and shut, which, I guess a crime like this could be, right? But then you get into court and you see all of these motions filed, and then you see sort of since it was a multi-state jurisdiction, you can kind of see how one state maybe mucked it up a little bit for the other state, and you're like, wait, they are getting lots of wins on clerical errors here. And so I just go back to like, wow, I never would have thought that to happen. But yeah, I had said, who is he on the phone with? I don't know. Was he just pretending to be on the phone? We don't know what's on the USB drives. I would think at this point, if someone else was involved, there was a co-conspirator, we would know by now. I have to think that because we are getting close to a trial, right? I mean,
Right.
close enough. So.
Well, and so once again, for people who maybe haven't been following as closely as you are, it was just the other day that the judge basically said that they can't include the contents of the backpack that he was found with as evidence because the search was improper. Isn't that right?
Well, yeah, and let me clarify that. I mean, I said this because I felt like Fox News and CNN, everybody was putting a spin on this. And I don't think that there should have been any type of spin here. There shouldn't be any type of outrage because the judge's decision, he pissed off both sides. And I think that's how you know that you made a good decision. So when Luigi Mangione was arrested at this Altoona, Pennsylvania McDonald's, he had his backpack sort of nearby. And essentially, the police were arguing exigent circumstances, which is, why they searched the backpack because it was in grabbable distance of him. And the judge kind of said, he called BS. He's like, no, the backpack wasn't in grabbable distance. He could not reach it. And they had also said, well, we were checking for explosives. He didn't really buy that either because they didn't check the entire backpack. And then they actually drove with it to the station. So it was kind of like, wait, you checked for explosive halfway through and then you just continued on to drive with it. It was bizarre. So basically they had arrested him for for showing a false ID, and then they didn't Mirandize him properly. So any statements he made before that, along with what they recovered in the backpack during that initial search, which was just a cell phone and a Faraday bag. It was a USB chip. I
Well, so
actually
hang
pulled
on.
up.
Let me
Yeah, I
stop you there
pulled
for
up
a
a
second.
tweet. Oh,
Let me stop you
sure.
there for a second. Because for people who don't know, a Faraday bag is a device that's used to shield phones and any kind of radio receiver or transmitter from electromagnetic radiation. So his phone can't be detected. And this, again, this is like, supervillain type stuff. Your average dude who's rolling around just shooting people doesn't keep his cell phone in a Faraday bag, doesn't have custom 3D printed weapons. Why would someone who seems to be such a sophisticated criminal attempting to cover his tracks be hanging out at McDonald's with all the evidence ready to be found? I mean, it seems contradictory, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And why I love doing what I do, as horrible it is for so many families involved in these awful cases. I love doing this because I love hearing what you just said, and then I love hearing the defense come up and say, Faraday bag, that's just that's just a waterproof bag. Like, some of his
Oh,
clothes are wet, like in the bag. That's nothing. I mean, I find all of this to be fascinating. And it's all up to a jury in the end. Which side are they going to believe, that he is calculated enough to block all of his signals, or was he just trying to protect his cell phone? I mean, you know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like, it's fascinating to me. But what I'll say is, I mean, he also had a passport, his wallet, um, in the backpack at this moment, and there was a magazine, a gun magazine. So none of that will come into play. And then just some suppressed statements, just reasons why he lied about his identity. He didn't really say much there. Statements about possessing the fake ID, and then certain responses to police post questioning before his Miranda rights were clearly read. But everything else found in that bag that was searched at the station is admissible. And objectively, anyone you speak to, they will tell you that this arguably is the most important evidence, right? The alleged 9mm ghost gun, silencer, the red notebook, more USB drives, various papers and writings, and then clothing, uh, and other inventoried items. There could be just there could be DNA on the clothing. There could be anything. So I do think that, again, these are the most important items, and I was shocked to have people argue with me. I was just saying that excuse me, an objective way, that the quote murder weapon would be one of the most important items, and I'm being told that it's not. So okay.
Well, but I mean, you didn't just come up with this from nowhere. This is in evidence that he had a Faraday bag. I'm sure a lot of people don't even know what that is, don't even know what
Mhm.
it's used for. And yet we have this guy who is sophisticated enough to have the presence of mind and the forethought to cover his tracks with a Faraday bag. Yet there he is with what some people would say is like this orgy of evidence. Now, months later, we've got these very sophisticated legal minds that can sift through all of this and sort of, okay, we're going to include this, we're not going to include that. To me, I mean, again, a lot of people watch the show and they say, oh, Jason's a conspiracy theorist. Other people will watch the show and say, wow, Jason is honing in on these details that other people aren't seeing. But what I see here is it's almost like an expert writer editing a script. I mean, you look at a complicated movie like Back to the Future or something like that, and there's all these little details. You're like, wait a minute, if he went back to 1955 and did this, it's like difficult to keep it all straight in your mind. But if you really know the story and the details, and you have a very calculating way of going through it, you can put this together in a way that really defies the thought process of the ordinary person. And as you said, and I agree, we are at a loss. We are not lawyers. There are complicated details to all of these things that make it extremely easy for people to be fooled or something unexpected to happen and say, oh no, the murder weapon, that's totally unimportant, Lauren. You're not a lawyer. You don't understand.
And like, that's fine. I guess I'm coming from a very objective place here where I just feel like with this case, like you can't win. You just, as a reporter, I got to tell you, like, I don't want this to come off in a careless way, but it's like, I don't have skin in the game here. I'm reporting on what I see. So, we all have problems with the healthcare system, right? My grandma, before she passed away, my mom had such a hard time. It was awful. It was awful. So I don't want anyone to come at me and just say, oh, you're too privileged. You don't understand. No, my grandma died. She couldn't get placed in a good hospital. However, I just don't, I can't, I can't align. I can't align either way here, where it's like, what am I trying to say? I'm reporting on this case objectively.
There you go.
And that's that. I'm bringing in experts, and it's so insane the attacks that reporters have endured since covering this case. I can't even tell you. When I was live tweeting some of the hearings, I think I was just, we're doing a lot, right? We're trying to hear. We don't always hear perfectly, but the public has an interest in this case. And New York obviously doesn't live stream hearings. So we're doing the best we can. And I just remember I was just putting up a photo when they had said something about Luigi yelling things to a reporter, but the photo was not from actually when he had yelled. It was a different time. And my intention was just to like show, just put some color around it. And the attacks I got saying that I was touting my own narrative, that this photo did not belong there because this was not when he screamed what I said he screamed. I was just like shocked. I was like, do you all really think that I have time to create a narrative as I'm live tweeting, writing a story? And like, I'm just trying to give somebody something to look at here besides my words. It's insane, and you have to just let it roll off. But man, people coming for your credibility constantly is just draining. So draining.
Almost enough to make you perhaps not want to cover it, isn't it?
I hate to say it, but yes. And so, but LA Magazine, they really like this story, so I am going to be on it. But Jason, yes, there have been times where I don't want to go to the courthouse, or I don't want to tweet stuff out because I just don't. It's like the most simple tweet, and somebody be like, well, he didn't yell that, he just said, oh, okay. Like, so you do the best you can. And I think it's kind of like people think that you report to them or something. I mean, I had someone last night, I thought I was helping in putting a story together where I got a lawyer, a criminal defense lawyer in New York to talk about, well, could Luigi take a plea? Is that even possible? And the comments are just so funny. Like, they're just like, well, this lawyer's acting like his only defense is jury nullification. It's just like, no, he's not acting like that. He's saying based on his experiences. You can read it or you cannot read it. I mean,
yeah. No, and what you're saying takes me to my next line of questioning, because it's difficult to know if this type of behavior that you're describing is the normal kind of organic behavior of just random idiots on the internet, or if this is what I always talk about, social engineering, where someone who has an interest, or a group that has an interest in the outcome of this case. For instance, if this was just Luigi operating on his own, that's one thing. But if there was a co-conspirator, someone he was on the phone with, some, sophisticated thing behind this, if it's not just Luigi, well, what is it? And if it is a conspiracy, is it two people? Is it more people? We don't know that much about this CEO. He was involved in some kind of corruption scandal or allegations. And it takes me to this viral story of the Mangionistas, these three reprehensible women who were outside there. Now, obviously, for me to state my opinion that what they said was reprehensible, it's quite easy to say, they're there. I think you were kind of alluding to this, that you're not really taking a side in this where, oh, it's a good thing they killed Brian, or it's a horrible thing they killed Brian, or whatever. The
Well, it's
fact
a
is,
horrible. I think my side is it's a horrible thing to kill
yes,
anybody.
right.
It's horrible. No, that I can say. I guess what I meant was I'm not like I'm not
Justifying it in any way.
I'm not. Oh God, no. And I certainly do not. It's just not part of our job as a reporter. You should not know how I feel about a court case that I am covering, or else how are you going to trust me to report it? In an ethic manner, in a manner where you get all the information, all of it. So that is my stance. Of course, I can sit here and say, as a human being, as a Christian Baptist woman, murder is wrong. Condoning murder is wrong. Are there issues with healthcare? Yes. And wow, Brian Thompson died, and look how much better healthcare is. Look, it's fixed.
Right.
It's so much better. It's done. Like,
Forgive me.
get the fuck out. Excuse my language. Like, get the fuck
That's
out of
fine.
here. Like, I'm
I
so
didn't. I
sick of
didn't
it.
mean to characterize. I didn't mean to put
Oh
words
no,
into your
not
mouth.
you. Sorry, not you. Just in
Yeah.
general.
No, but obviously that's what these women were saying. They came right out and said they don't care that he's dead. His children, who they very probably don't even know, they've decided the guy's children are better off that he's dead. It is, I think, sickening to most people, but representative of what a certain segment. I mean, we see these women dressed up as Super Mario Brothers and stuff like that. It's quite bizarre. And again, it just causes me to wonder, is this an organic reaction? Because, those three women, first of all, that I thought was just a name that the newspapers had given them, the Mangionistas. It's actually their Instagram account. There were multiple videos of them saying that, high quality news photos. It's not like, some person randomly captured them saying this on a live stream video and the internet picked it up and it went viral. My mind always goes to, is this a coordinated campaign to put this message out there? Because now look at what's happened. We've got Mamdani has come out and said, oh, we need to re-examine the press pass distribution credentialing process. And I know that you are a credentialed member of the press, not trying to affect your opinion on this, but it's my opinion, and I've been stating this on X and elsewhere, that the whole concept that Zoran Mamdani or anyone who is the mayor of New York City or the government of New York City or anything gets to decide and dole out these little licenses of who has access to the First Amendment and who doesn't. And even when people say things that the majority of us agree are reprehensible, that Zoran can now decide, oh, these people don't deserve the right to have the First Amendment. Just to clarify, I think what these girls said was horrible, and I think the notion that any person on the street gets to be the judge, jury, and executioner because they don't like the way a gigantic corporation is run, I think it's terrible, but I think these idiotic women have the right to say that and reveal to the world that they are stupid. And I think that taking away their right, even symbolically, by removing these press passes is wrong. And it brings me to the conclusion that I don't believe that a press pass should exist at all. I think every person has the right to the First Amendment. And if they get to say, well, you have the right to be the press, why don't they have religion passes and say, well, Baptist, that's okay. Judaism is okay. Islam is okay. But this religion over here is not okay.
I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to follow what you're saying exactly, because I think this is a twofold thing here. So those three women, the girl in the middle, Abriel with the blonde hair, I had seen her and noticed her, and we even follow each other on social media, like from just I think I interviewed her on the street months ago, I would
Uh-huh.
say. And she had never she had never said anything like what those other two women said. She had not. And so when I saw this, I guess I put together that they were a little trio, and I just going back a few months, a lot of the press had noticed that they were coming to the hearings with press passes. And it was a little confusing. And the reason that you do need press passes, or one of the reasons I should say, is these high profile cases, there's a press line and a public line. And, press, we got a job to do. We've got deadlines. We actually have, we got to report to people. We have a story to write, to tell, etc. And when you've got people like that taking up our seats, it's tough,
Well,
right?
but wait a
It's
minute.
very, yeah,
But
it's very
they
tough.
did get press passes. What I'm saying is,
Yeah.
the fact that there's this, so right there, the argument is we need press passes to keep people like them out. So my point is, it's failing at doing that. What it's keeping out is anyone who, how do we know how they got a press pass? I've applied many times for a New York City press pass. I've covered Jeffrey Epstein trials, interviewed Alan Dershowitz. I've interviewed senators, all kinds of things.
You
And
were denied?
many times. So I'm saying it's a corrupt process that the city controls. And the fact that these women had the press passes just speaks to exactly what I'm saying. I think they are injected in there to present this false narrative, because now what we have is an outraged city, an outraged country, where they're going to say, okay, take away their press passes, and we're going to have now a more stringent control over the dissemination of press passes, where only New York City approved journalists get to have this premium access to the courtroom that you're describing. What I'm saying is they should just make it that, okay, here's a line. If you're in the press, get in this line and you can come in. And if that means you got to get there at 4 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, the most dedicated and dogged journalists will get there early and get in there and do the job. Someone who is not good at it will do bad reporting, and their journalism will rise and fall in the natural ebb and flow of a market. I just think that by allowing Zoran Mamdani or the NYPD
Mhm.
or the City Hall to control this, what you get are journalists who are going to favorably report to those interests, and you're blocking out journalists who might speak their minds. I support these women's right to be idiots and say idiotic
Sure.
things.
Well, that's the whole thing, Jason. I don't think anyone, there's people out there dressed like Luigi, right? Who cares? She's not sporting a press pass, and she's not throwing jury nullification videos in people's faces constantly. And it's just like, yes, of course that's okay. I support that as well. Say whatever you want. But yes, the minute that you are wearing a New York City press badge, and while you are wearing one, you say the vile things. I mean, I was so, and like on a personal level, I was just so upset. I could not process them saying, F him, basically, have his kids are better off without him. I'm just like, what is this world? I mean, what the hell is this world? Brian Thompson, like obviously I've said the healthcare system isn't perfect, but he came from nothing. He rose to the top, by himself on his own, arguably. Luigi is came from an affluent family. Luigi's grandfather obviously did well for his family, but Luigi, he went to very expensive private schools. He was not a client of United Healthcare. I mean, he was very, very privileged, if you will. And look, I do think that some of these advocates getting press passes, they are being advised by possibly other journalists on how to do this. So that is something to possibly consider. But like, what is the motive? I guess what would a motive be for another accredited journalist to
Well, but
want them to get press
why
passes?
does
I
it
don't
have
know.
to be an accredited journalist? I'm just suggesting that anyone at all could be, motivating these people to do these things. I mean, again, if we're
Oh no, but I am
speculating,
suggesting that as a fact. So
well, I mean, again, we don't know who motivates who to do what necessarily, or perhaps maybe you do. I don't know who does. I'm just saying there's a lot of mysteries surrounding this murder. And I think there's also a lot of social engineering around it. Even what you've just told us there, that you were outraged. I mean, that's the thing. This is designed, I think, to provoke an emotional response, to get people very upset, to get you focused on that rather than something else. I mean, that's the whole point of social engineering, is that now, instead of whatever facts and details people might have been focused on, let's say you did an excellent report on Tuesday or whenever this took place, maybe they don't want people focusing on that. They want people focusing on these, weirdo Gen Z chicks who are interested in Brian
Well,
Thompson's kids.
you said it. You nailed it, because the story on Tuesday that I put out about the evidence in the backpack, I mean, completely overshadowed by
Oh,
this.
yeah.
Of course. And I think that, part of the outrage as well is like kind of like what you said. I got my press pass as an independent reporter when I was about to start covering the Diddy trial for two outlets.
That's
And
where I first saw you. That's where I first saw you reporting.
So, but it took me, I mean, I had written for a couple of websites. I had done guest pieces for websites. I had been reporting on the news on certain cases. I had already even done that Fox Nation doc. I was on Nancy Grace once a week, even from the crime scenes here. Okay, I mean, it took me like 3 different tries. I had to go. It was insane. And I was very proud when I finally got it. When they issued that to me as an independent journalist, I was so proud of the work I had done to get that. It was a really nice moment. And I see what's going on now, and it is tough. It's like, is there an ulterior motive happening behind the scenes? Is like what is it? I don't know. I don't know, but this has been talked about by the press for months now. It's just funny that Molly from the Daily News, she was able to capture this, and Kyle as well from the Post. They were able to capture this stuff, have it go viral, and this is sort of what triggered, the mayor to have this, this whole press conference and this discussion. And even I've seen on social media, even Mangione supporters and advocates have been like, we don't want anything to do with those three. It's like there are the supporters that do not condone murder or vile statements like that even they are having to be like, well, now everybody has a bad name because of those girls.
Yeah, well, and look at this. I didn't even know this or anticipate this. Well, I guess I anticipated it, but I hadn't seen this before we came on today. But the USA Today is saying Mamdani's press policy review draws First Amendment scrutiny. Now, I don't know if you saw my little interview with Zoran Mamdani, but this is not somebody that I want doing anything with the First Amendment. Did you see that?
I did not see that.
Let me share this with you.
Yeah, I did not see it.
So, see, Zoran Mamdani, I really don't want anyone to have this ability to, decide who does or does not get a press pass. Because if, like me, you focus your attention on, let's say, NYPD corruption or corruption in City Hall, guess what? They don't want to give you a press pass. But I had the opportunity to speak with our buddy Zoran before he was the mayor. Let's take a look.
You're running for mayor? Yeah. Isn't this not First Amendment activity, shutting down a business 3 weeks in a row? How many New York City businesses could tolerate to close their location 3 weeks in a row? This is an economic attack on Tesla. How can you sanction this? You will never be mayor. This is not the use of the First Amendment.
I was wrong about that. He's mayor, but he insists that this is the First Amendment, to have thugs come push me out of the way, to close down Tesla, intimidate their customers, carry around signs that say burn a Tesla. So this is not someone that we want to be the arbiter of First Amendment activity. I mean, let these women have as much access to the court and the news. If they dress up like Super Mario Brothers, or like they're doing some kind of, Instagram shoot or whatever the hell they're doing, they have their purses out like like they're sponsored by Louis Vuitton or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, what is going on over there? But let everybody see that and come to whatever decision they come to about the whole thing, is my position.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, I get your position. I don't like it. I worked hard, like I said. There are
I
certain
appreciate
cases that believe, like, no, but even, there's cases that I cover where I wish I could just go out there and be like, F this motherfucker, like, but I don't. I don't. If I'm not truly covering it, maybe I'll do that for our YouTube, right? But in terms of this stuff, yeah, there are times that I wish I could be like, that was insane. That should have never happened. But like, I stop myself because I want to be trusted by people. I want them to come to me.
Impartial.
I do, yeah, and I want them to be able to come to me to know that I am telling the truth. I obviously make mistakes if I don't hear something or if I miss something, but I want to be trusted, and that's it. And I do think that badge, it should have an honor. You should be an honorable person, an honorable member of the media, trusted, truthful. That's what it should be.
Well, and I'm not trying to change your mind, but I will continue to share my opinion that I think that honor and integrity comes from you and your journalism, not a piece of paper that Zoran Mamdani decides you're allowed to hold. So you've been very generous with your time, Lauren. I know you're busy and you don't have too much more time, but there's so much more I want to discuss with you about the work you've been doing about the missing scientists and these sort of suspicious UFO releases that are going on with the government.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have you back sometime soon and we can continue to talk about some of this stuff. Anything else you want to tell everybody about before we wrap up today?
Well, you are wonderful, and I would love to come back because I could talk to you forever. But one thing I'll say that you had said before, just really quickly about a possible conspiracy of some sort. Something that I find to be so perplexing nowadays is between Mangione and between like Tyler Robinson, for example. You've got a red notebook of Mangione's, which the defense obviously was fighting to not get that in because initially there are writings in there, and we have not seen all of them, but reportedly some of these writings say, I worked alone. That's Mangione. And then you have Tyler Robinson that's like, oh, my love, look under the keyboard. Yes, it was me, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, why are we living in this society where everyone tells us like that they did it? I've never heard of that before. Same with like the Brown shooter. It's like all of a sudden the DOJ presents us with like this transcript of Portuguese saying why he did what he did. And we didn't ask for that. I get really skeptical when things are like spelled out for us. I just don't. I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but maybe you do. It's just like,
I agree with you.
Doing here?
It's a little bit too on the nose. It's very suspicious. It doesn't seem like the type of thing that people who are running away from the police and putting their electronic devices in Faraday bags, doesn't seem like they'd, go to McDonald's with the evidence that says, hey, I did it. And by the way, here's the evidence.
It's weird. It's weird. It's just so bizarre. Like, being caught with everything. Tyler Robinson, like writing down that it's putting it in writing. I don't know.
Very weird.
Yeah, we can continue on this. We should continue on this at another time. So thank you so much for having me.
And thank you, Lauren. People can follow Lauren on X at Conlin_Lauren. She does a great podcast, lots of great reporting. And if you want to keep up with the Luigi Mangione trial, you've got to follow her. People can also follow me on X at JG_CSTT. And you can sponsor Crowdsource the Truth at crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com or subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Thanks for watching, everybody. Lauren, I'll speak to you soon.